Here's a sample MCAT CARS question with expert feedback. Assume that a scholar is planning an extensive study of the children's story, Red Riding Hood. The author of the passage probably would say that the most important task to be performed is A. Examining the social context in which the story was written. B. Comparing the occurrence of words indicating various concepts, family relationships, food, emotional states, etc. C. Tracing prior literary influences on the structure of the story and its influence on later works. D. Isolating the story elements that explain its enduring popularity.
Assume that a scholar is planning an extensive study of the children's story, Red Riding Hood. The author of the passage probably would say that the most important task to be performed is. And so what type of question is this first?
Reasoning beyond the text.
Excellent. Good job identifying these. And you've correctly selected D, right? So this one is, I think, a harder one. So a good job on getting it right. And I want to hear how you worked through it and which, as we've been doing, which ones you eliminated, which stood out to you. Yeah.
So A and C are more like looking at the things, the influences or whatever, like around the story. It's not really looking at the story itself. And then B seemed like a little bit more like detailed. It's looking at only like the occurrence of words versus D was more about like the story elements.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. And here, if we think about, like, for example, B, right, it's not going to give you a coherent analysis of the story itself. It might give you some interesting sociological data or linguistics data, like someone doing some sort of linguistics degree might be doing B, right? But that's not going to tell you much about Little Red Riding Hood, the story, right? It's just going to tell you something about maybe the time period. So good job at separating out those two elements there. Of one is kind of doing the more scientific thing of looking at the social conditions that it was written in or something like that. But the author wants us to be doing literary analysis where we're studying the story itself. And therefore we get D. Excellent. Any questions or points of clarification? Anything confusing about this one? Okay, great.
It was just harder to like figure out, but
you worked through it well. That was like, you showed exactly the right steps there. And that one is more tricky because you really need to kind of think about, and this is a good example of, you really need to know what the whole text is about to really answer this one correctly. Because if you skim read this and went, very easy to click the wrong thing or select the wrong thing. And one of the things we're trying to avoid by practicing and by applying the methods is oftentimes multiple choice tests can be kind of like pattern recognition tests, right? Especially when you've got like 100 questions on those long exams we sometimes have, right? And yep, that's that, and that habit is what makes people do poorly on the MCAT. So yeah, but great job avoiding it.
Stick around for more sample MCAT CARS questions with expert feedback to help you score in the 90th percentile or higher.